right, Greenleaf fans. Well, here we go. This was the first episode of the final season, and I gotta say, it felt good to jump back into the saddle. I almost forgot that when it comes to Greenleaf, it's going to come with a lot of notes. I have 2.5 pages of notes, which reminds me of last season when I first started reviewing it on the channel. This show moves at a pretty fast pace, and before going any further, not to jump the gun, but I have a very good feeling that this season of Greenleaf is going to be more satisfying, or excuse me, this final season of Greenleaf is most likely going to be very, very satisfying compared to If Loving You Is Wrong, whereas both shows were ending during their season fives. The difference is If Loving You Is Wrong had 12 episodes and there's still so much left unanswered, where Greenleaf has only 8 episodes, or technically 7 if you omit last night. And it seems like not only are we going to close the book on a bunch of storylines, but we're also going to get that spinoff and, maybe get some setup in these final episodes there. So once again, this season, the final one, is off to a very strong start. And before going any further in the video, make sure you give this one a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any new content. And what would I score this episode? I mean, it's a tough call. I wouldn't say 10 out of 10, and I wouldn't even say it's not perfect in regards of, I'm not giving it a 10 because I didn't really like it. No, I think maybe, I think this episode should get a strong 8.5 out of 10. I was going to give it a 9, but I don't want to just hand out high scores for the sake of doing so. But this episode was really good. But screw it. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I hate to, fumble the ball there, but now I think about the AJ stuff. 9 out of 10. All right, so pretty much we actually start the episode with the only clip of the episode we got yesterday, which was the scene of Bishop standing in the pulpit looking at the, the auditorium. Is that what you call it? Or the, the church? Well, I mean, technically auditorium, empty congregation seats. Then Grace comes up to join them. They both hold hands, and then, they leave to go outside. The news reporter for H&H pretty much, is documenting the fact that the church is going through a total restructure in the next 7 days. Later in the episode, we learned that the real rebuilding process should take about a year. And Grace is asking Bishop, why in the world are they there? It's heartbreaking just to be here watching everything being taken out, either tossed to the side, or I guess you could say put into storage, or whatever the situation is. But Bishop, this just reminded me how much I miss this show. Bishop laid down some, foundational facts there about how sometimes you need to see things come to an end in order to know that it happened. That way you can see it and believe it, because sometimes when you're not there, when something is about to die, you're always going to hold on to hope that it didn't die. So it's going to prevent you from moving forward. I know I kind of paraphrased what he said, but it was a great quote there. And also the heartbreak where he told Grace, that isn't heartbreaking, but seeing how the cross is handled, that's what's heartbreaking. And then they leave, and I'm like, ooh, that was a good opening, a very good opening to the episode. Then we get the theme song. And of course, at the beginning of the episode, we got a recap of most of the events last season. We have Lady May, who's fasting and praying until she gets a sign from God on what to do next. And I love how she called out Charity for being like a Benedict Arnold to the family. And my gosh, May was a trip in this episode. I feel like, was it Aaron and the maid who were both saying, you're fasting. Are you sure that's good for you? Like to not make you crazy or anything like that. But May was just shooting out, venom at anyone she felt like in this episode. And yeah, Charity, I think I mentioned this in one of the mini videos I posted yesterday. Kind of like Jermaine Jackson. How all the Jacksons left Motown to go to Epic Records, but Jermaine stayed at Motown because he kind of felt obligated to, since he was married to Hazel Gordy, Barry Gordy's daughter. And pretty much, it's always awkward because, in that situation, he was the only one of the family to stay instead of move on to something new, bigger and better. Charity's the same thing. in a way, she was going to be married to Phil, but of course that got axed in favor of Judy so we can get the job. But we'll get more into that later in the episode. Aaron shows up, and Charity pretty much, is rude to him as she goes to work. May doesn't know how to. Well, actually, May said something I was actually shocked to say she would. She doesn't want the church back, and she figures that she's been aiming at the wrong target when it comes to her plan of action of what to do next in terms of moving forward. Now, I was shocked that she said she didn't want the church back, but I'm wondering, does she not want the church back because she feels like it's a lost cause, that it's time to just start fighting for something different? The fact that H&H has tainted it, or is it the fact that she was told she was going to be the next big thing? She was going to be in the position that Grace was going to be in. I'm guessing like as head pastor or pretty much the face of this new church. But then Phil comes over not too long after May had met with Bob and shut that down completely. So I'm wondering, is May not wanting the church back because of H&H in regards to it being a lost cause now? Or is she just bitter because she was told she would get this specific role, but then finds out it was ripped up, the rug was yanked from underneath her feet? So I wonder if a matter of her realizing that she has been aiming wrong in regards to Calvary, or if she's just bitter that H&H kicked her to the curb. I wonder if that's the reason why she doesn't want the church back. Bishop and Grace return home. May knows Bishop is still upset about her taking the offer from Bob. Remember, at the end of last season, just what I was saying, May was all about, we need to get our own house in order. She called out Bishop for, doing some underhanded tactics to find out that Connie was taking bribes from H&H under the table. And May was like, no, we're not going to get the church back that way. And then I think there was a time where Bishop was offered, I wouldn't say a position, but an opportunity to substitute for a pastor at another church. I think in, Georgia or somewhere else. But basically, I know that pastor was sick or something and they needed someone to fill in. And May was ticked at him about him having that conversation without including her. And he said he would think about it. He didn't even say he would do it. Whereas May just jumped at the opportunity as soon as Bob presented it to her. So I can see why he is pissed off at her. All right. So we go over to Carissa and Jacob, and their stick for this episode is discussing the will. And basically, if he doesn't treat her well in the divorce, then she will expose the will. Pretty much, as he said, okay, what is it that I need to do so you won't do this? So basically, what do I need to do to make sure you don't expose this will thing? And basically, she's like, treat me like the finest person to ever come out of a divorce in Tennessee. And I'm like, ugh, gold digger. And wait, Jacob doesn't even have a job, does he? Because wait, he got let go from the church, and then he was Dante's like personal pastor, and then he got fired from that. So it's a tough day for Jacob in this episode, that's for sure. All right, so Sophia is going for a run. She gets a call from Dante to come over at 6 p.m. Basically, in order to avoid Zora, she'll drive over there herself as opposed to him coming to pick her up. And yeah, that plays out pretty well in the episode as we get towards the back half. So Charity is walking down the hallway of the church. Phil comes out to meet her, and she pretty much pulls him to the side in order to speak freely because she doesn't want to mess up her position as associate pastor, because at this point in her life, this is the only thing she has. Her family hates her. The man I thought I was going to marry dumped me, so this is all I have. And Phil is all about presenting a united front because this is the first day of a new beginning. And let's just jump to the board meeting itself. Basically, Phil is breaking down how, hey, here's a new location. It's going to be a gymnasium for the next year. It's wheelchair accessible. It's only until we rebuild the new church. So guys, just hang in there 1 year, then we'll be back and better than ever. Then Charity, Lord, she put on a show all about how, oh yeah, I'll be bringing you the word in this new church. Yes, amen. And I have a new series about the absence or the overlooked black women of the church. And then you want to be there every Sunday, every third Sunday. Or Phil was just trying to keep things in order, but Charity, she was putting on a show. And then everybody awkwardly left the board meeting, and that was the end of that. That was pretty intense. And as you could tell, not everyone knew that H&H was going to tear down the building. I mean, yeah, this isn't what they voted for. Talk about that before election season, huh? All right, so then we jump back to Aaron showing AJ and Grace, the young man who actually got shot down or gunned down not too long ago, I believe like the night or before, and he was going down for the pharmacy robbery. He was pretty much a drugstore or pharmacy cowboy. Pretty much he robbed a bunch of other stores in the area, and he sold drugs. So AJ and Grace are pretty much stumped by this because they can't believe it. And Grace asked Aaron if she could keep the photos in the paper because this was the guy who was at the grave at the cliffhanger of the last season. I mean, she even had a flashback to it. So then we go over to Darius. Him and Grace talk for the first time in a while. Given his absence, he's been trying to get over her, but she needs a favor. And they go to get coffee, and she needs to find out about who the guy at the grave was. So pretty much that's what Darius's favor needed to be, and he would make a couple of phone calls to see if he can make it happen. So then we go over to Jacob and Aaron, who is having Aaron look over the will to see if it's legit, to see if there's any way he can combat the will. And Aaron says it looks a little funky. What I need is the original will this is based off of in order to compare it, in order to make sure whether or not this will could be used against you and whether or not you can counter it or fight it or whatever you need to do. And as soon as Aaron leaves, Jacob makes a call for, Joyce or Alexa, because he needed to talk with her. Then we go over to... Oh, yeah. Sorry. Got to flip my page here. We go over to Charity and the choir director. He's not pleased with what H&H has going, and he is going to quit. She says she wants to quit too, but this is pretty much all she has left. And we also have Jacob and Alexa talking. Apparently, this is Mac's old secretary, former assistant, and I believe her and Jacob has something going on. Sorry, it's been a while since I watched the show. My bad. Maybe I should have watched that marathon that was going on from Sunday to Tuesday. But she has a young daughter and pretty much is giving Jacob the cold shoulder the entire time he's there. But, she does give a storage locker information that would have Mac's belongings and possibly the paperwork that Jacob could use to save his family from the backlash of Carissa and that will. Also, we have him apologizing to her about how they ended, and that was a sweet moment. So then we go over to AJ and Grace. AJ pretty much, hey, I robbed the store. You know it. I know it. And he doesn't feel like this is real. I mean, at first I'm like, wait, does he not believe in God? Like, he doesn't think God is real, or he isn't able to comprehend what's going on because, as Grace said, it's messed up. It's bad that somebody had to die, but he took the blame. So you're free. It's a miracle. It's pretty much, hey, this is a fresh start. Let's start over, please. And what we can do tonight, me, you, and Sophia can have like a family outing, go have dinner and have fun. And AJ is like, okay, sure. So as soon as Grace leaves, he does what he does best, which as soon as somebody tries to show him a little bit of love, he packs up and gets ready to run. But as he's about to do so, he looks in the mirror, and I guess you could say that he just gets a good look at himself. And based off what happens in the cliffhanger, he doesn't like what he sees. And it's hard to tell if he was crying, but it looked like he was having a bit of a breakdown there. Then we go over to Bishop, Corinne, Misty, and cannot read my own freaking writing. Click. Crap. Claudia, I think. Sorry, my handwriting was trash. I apologize. I'm sorry. Knocked over the mic too. Wow. Sorry about that. But they're upset about the church being torn down. And as I mentioned earlier, based off their reactions in the board meeting, they did not know what they voted for about H&H plans to tear the church down and rebuild it. Bishop says, you know what? Let's go to it in prayer. And I think that was the phrase of the episode. Everybody, Aaron's like, hey, I want to pray for you. Lady May is like, hey, I want to pray for you, Jacob. Hey, I'm going to pray for you, Grace, and this and that. So we go to Jacob. He goes to the locker number 1058. I wrote it down because I have no idea if that number means anything significant, but I just wrote it down because we saw the number. And also the guy was like, hey, this leads for 2 years, but Jacob's like, hey, put another 6 months on it. And he starts to go through the stuff. Obviously, this is a season-long project because there's a lot of stuff he needs to go through. So Grace gets a call. She's setting up reservations for the dinner. And another call comes in from Darius. He actually had an interview with Bob Whitmore and knows why Bob came to town. So he wants to tell Grace in person. And we go over to Sophia and Dante. So I'm assuming this is at 6 p.m. because Sophia said I'll be over there at 6. Which, wait a minute. 6 p.m. That doesn't line up with some. Okay, you know what? And I'll say that for later in the episode review. So basically, Nikki's over there and he's like, oh, we're working it out, but we're not going to get together. We just need to talk. And hey, I'll call you when she leaves. And Sophia's like, and I really saw Grace in this moment. I really saw a little Grace talking to Dante. Like Sophia went into full Grace mode and I was here for it. Basically, it's like, you know what? What did she say? I'm not mad or no, I'm not I'm not hurt, but what is it? No. I'm not mad, but I'm a little hurt. And then she left and I'm like, dang, I would ask for gas money. Cause it's like, you see, that's guys. I hate guys, like, well, as a guy myself, it's like, I wouldn't do that to a woman, but if I knew I had someone coming over and then an ex shows up or whatever, I would have the decency to call. Like, I know you don't want breakups through text and whatnot, but even so, I would just let the person know, hey, let's say this person pops up at my house like 40 minutes before my guest is supposed to show up. I would call my guest, say, hey, something came up. Sure, maybe it's not the best thing to lie, but technically it's like I wouldn't want them to go through the trouble of going all the way across town to see me, and then they see that I'm with someone else. And I know this sounds bad, like, Jeremy, are you saying that if you had a female come over if a female popped up at your front door the same hour you were supposed to have a female guest over, would you lie to cover it up? It's like, I would just say something came up, I guess. I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I've never been a ladies' man, so I don't know. I really can't fathom what's going on. All I can say is Dante's trash for what he did. That's all I'm saying. And Sophia took it like a champ. So we go over to Mac and Bishop and, I'm sorry. May and Bishop. Sorry. It was an E, not a C. Golly. I promise next episode review, I have better handwriting for my notes. He talks about what he said in the trailer. Basically, it's not about getting the church back. We need to start a new church. And when he talked with Misty and everyone else, he pretty much saw a glimmer of hope he hadn't seen before, because he was afraid after seeing A Day with Lady May, the fact that, May had that fire, that drive, that way with the people that Bishop thought had died out in his own heart. But just seeing that they looked to him for guidance in order to try to get the church back, it made him realize that, it's not about us. It's not about getting the church back. It's about doing what we can to shepherd the congregation. And I love this moment. And he's like, hey, what we can do first, go down to the justice of the peace, get married right now, then we'll get something to eat, and then I'm guessing from there they would work on what they can do to potentially start their own church. So I thought that was a really great moment and just showed, holy crap, they are not wasting any time this season. All right, so moving on from I think it's kind of funny how we switch scenes from May and Bishop talking about getting remarried, and then we go over to Phil, who called off his engagement to Charity, and he's taking down her photos from, I think his refrigerator at his apartment or loft or wherever he's at. And when there's a knock on the door, I thought it was Judy. Like, I knew the Valerie, the actress that plays Judy, I think she said on Instagram earlier yesterday that she wasn't going to be in the episode. But I'm like, well, she could be trolling us. But no, it was Charity. And I thought it was Judy just because of the fact that there was that one lone Charity photo that was on the counter that Phil didn't grab. So I'm like, what, is Judy going to show up and then notice the photo and flip on him? But no, Charity shows up to give back the ring. And it's almost like Phil is remorseful for what happened. But Charity gives the ring back and he's like, I still love you. And basically, I've worked 20 years for Bob. Basically, it's like, look, I've barely known you 20 days. And I've waited 20 years working for Bob to be in this position. So I'm going to be head pastor. Long story short, Charity gives the ring back and she leaves. And he ends up staring at the photo again, which makes some people believe that Phil and Charity will get together. But to be honest, I don't even know if I think they would be a good couple at this point. Then we go over to Grace and Darius drops some bombs, and I'm like, dang, it's only episode 1, and we are just, there's a lot of stuff going. I mean, like I said earlier in the video, like the Tyler Perry writing, ain't got nothing on this. Like the pacing is phenomenal. So I know there are some things I probably missed, but I did jot down the notes. I watched this scene a couple of times to make sure I got what Darius was saying. You know, neighbors are saying that Bob had purchased like a house in the neighborhood, but it was like an empty house. And he gave lots of donations to the local foundations, and you know, all this is a plan for him to, I believe, run for Senate. So Bob wants to run for Senate as Senator of Tennessee, and that's why he's setting up, you know, the H&H headquarters there and donating money and buying up all this land and whatnot, all for that purpose. And I'm like, holy crap, this is big. And see, this is actually a very well executed explanation, as opposed to, let's say, the haves and have-nots, where, oh, we have a president-elect candidate, or, you know, a presidential candidate, Charles, getting involved with the story. And it's like, wait, what? So then we go to Grace getting an invite to a wedding. And I'm like, wedding? And we go to Jacob and Carissa. They're both getting dressed for the wedding. She's like, oh, I got my lawyer all set with what my demands are. And Jacob's like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. And Carissa is like, you know, kind of like Phil. She's getting what she wants, but I don't think she believes that's what she really wants. Like, I think it's the fact that Jacob doesn't even want to be fighting. It's like, he even says like, look, you got me exactly where you want me. Fine, whatever. I don't think Carissa really wants to get a divorce, but at the same time, it's like, she's just said and done too much, and like, once your mind is made up, she knows there's no turning back. So I mean, there could be hope for Jacob and Carissa, but when you are as low down as to not only give your husband a you know, venereal disease, what was it, chlamydia, you would also dig up dirt on your in-laws in order to blackmail Jacob. Yeah, get the hell out. Oh, sorry, I said I wouldn't cuss. My bad. So everybody's heading, you know, what is it, like they're going to City Hall or Justice of the Peace. And this is where I was a bit confused, because Sophia comes back and Zora's like, slut, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. But she said she was going to go upstairs to grab her jacket, and May was like, well, hurry up, they close at 5. And I'm like, wait, City Hall closes at 5? But didn't Sophia say she would go over to Dante's at 6 p.m.? So did Sophia just show up at Dante's early? Yeah, that was a bit confusing. But everybody arrives. Grace shows up, and Zora's talking to her parents, and they're obviously a bit, you know, angsty, because she's trying to get some video footage for, okay, any any words for the soon-to-be married couple. And I think I love the bit where Bishop was like, put it on the Insta roll, and it's like Grandpa's Instagram. I did love that. I did love that scene. And Charity shows up, and despite everything that she's done, I did love when she asked, like, wait, you want me to go down there with you all? It's like, Charity, get in the car. I love that moment. Yeah, Charity is the Benedict Arnold, but I just love the fact that Bishop is like, look, regardless of what went down, you're still our child. I love that. He wanted the whole family there, even AJ. And I mean, May was even like, well, why are we getting all the family? I thought we were just going to rush down there and get married. Honestly, I thought the same thing, but I love the fact that Bishop was like, hey, well, this is a major milestone for the family. Let's do this together. Maybe our union could help, you know, repair some of the cracks in the family foundation. I actually love that. I loved it. But sadly, Grace goes to find AJ, and he slit his wrist, and she screams for an ambulance, and that's the end of the episode. So yeah, this was a very powerful start to the series. The final season of the series. 9 out of 10. Like I said before, 8.5, but I bounced it up to 9 because this was intense. This was intense. I feel like we picked up where we left off from a bunch of things in the previous episode. We set up some major plot points and mysteries from, you know, Jacob looking through the paperwork in Mac's storage locker, Darius returning and then telling Grace all this information about Bob, the return of, what was it, Alexa, the Alexis, the girl that Jacob went to see. And the list goes on. So I'm really excited to see what happens next. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What were some of your favorite moments of the episode? I mean, the one-liners, they did not disappoint from May and Charity. Like Charity showing off at that board meeting, I was like, Lord have mercy. But like I said, social media links in the description. Make sure you hit subscribe and the thumbs up button. If you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App, or just feel free to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Can't wait to get back in the swing of things. As soon as they drop the trailer for next week's episode, I will be doing a trailer breakdown on it, and we'll go from there. So guys, 7 more reviews left, and we are done with Greenleaf.